Hello, this is BSJ, and this is going to be a new course that I'm starting. This will be the first video for tips and tricks that I gather from coaching sessions every Sunday. I'm going to be showing you a coaching student doing the concept wrong, and then showing either myself or a pro player doing the concept correctly. So the concept we're doing today is when you're in a rough lane, and you don't really have anywhere else you can go. And what I mean by that is, you're in a lane where the enemy has kill threat on you, and you have no kill threat on them, or they just harass you a lot better than you harass them. And it's that point in the game where you're either under-leveled or under-farmed, and you don't have anywhere else to go. And what that means is that the general concept is you don't want to occupy the lane against the person you're laning against, and you have nowhere else to go. It's too early to jungle, you're not strong enough to rotate to a different lane yet. Usually this comes like when you're like a level 5, maybe a level 6 hero that doesn't have a very strong ultimate. So the idea that we're showing you is the coaching student here first. And the first principle we want to talk about is that if you're against a laner that you don't want to lane against, every time he's gone for whatever reason, whether he's in a different lane, whether he's shown himself under a ward, that's a great time to push the lane out as fast as possible. So you're going to see that actually done correctly by the coaching student right here, that the lane is unoccupied, he pushes it out, and the minute the guy comes back, he leaves. And so what this means is that when you are in a lane like this one, you want to leave as soon as possible. And so the only way to do that is to get yourself as much farm. But the problem is you can't actually farm the lane. So when you're in these types of lanes, your job is turned into defending your tower. And so you have to think about every time you're gone from the lane, you need to defend your tower. This can be done by rotating between jungle and lane. This can be done by, just pulling the small camp and then pulling the lane back into your tower. But think about how much the offlaner is going to push the lane. And then make sure whenever you're jungling or farming a small camp right next to your lane, that you are monitoring the lane equilibrium. So in this case, notice how the times where he could be jungling the small camp usually look like this, where you're just sitting underneath your tower. And in this case, the reason why this is so incorrect for him to farm the lane like this is the Sand King's out-leveling him. He offers no threat on the Sand King, and if he's laning statically against the Sand King's just going to bully him or potentially gank him. And so he just has to keep his distance from the Sand King. And Sand King's a hero that's naturally going to push your tower. So all you have to do is come back when the lane's underneath your tower. Otherwise, just farm neutrals that are close to your lane, such that you can rotate back and forth. And when you should be farming neutrals, this is what it generally looks like. You're just sitting underneath your tower AFK. And so you're going to see that he shows up in lane. Perfect example. He's not really allowed to lane against the Sand King. Sand King simply goes on him with Epicenter and takes him down. So something to consider in these types of lanes when you can't leave is not only what I just told you about the philosophy of rotating between jungle and lane, but also between the fact that you should buy items that make you more survivable. Rather than buying these greedy items when you're behind, trying to go for that jungle camps as fast as possible, you should buy like raindrops plus an extra set of tangos for regen, such that you are able to occupy your lane for the long enough time to get up your level 7 or 8, or whatever you may need. Because in this case, he's trying to buy jungling items when he's not able to jungle yet. And so now he's more vulnerable in his laning stage, and then he ends up dying. So for a last point from this game, he's actually going to show you what you're supposed to be doing right now. The lane's not in a safe place. You can't occupy the lane because the Sand King's still there, and he chooses to farm the small camp. But like we said, you have to remember in these types of games that you're not always too weak to defend your tower. You may be too weak to lane against the guy, but you're not too weak to defend your tower. So your job is to do exactly what he's doing right here, and then proceed to rotate back to the lane once it pushes into your tower. So his camera perspective, as he's farming these neutrals, should be right here, and once the lane goes into his tower, as you're about to see, he should be defending it, at least stopping this tower push, like getting these creeps off the tower. And this is something where, not only did he mess up the first time, where he chose to stay in lane when he shouldn't have, but when he eventually left lane, he was too scared to return to it because of what happened the first time. So don't let your inability to actually lane against somebody make you think you're not allowed to defend the tower against them. And then the only decision that it comes down to is whether or not you can actually defend the tower based on how many heroes are rotating to your lane. And so that's the key decision that you're forced to have. Rather than thinking whether or not you can lane against the person, think, once you're in this situation, can I actually defend my tower? And if you can't, that's when you look to rotate somewhere else. And it's very good to have that idea in your mind of how many heroes or what situation needs to happen such that you can no longer defend your tower. Whether or not that's the offlaner hitting 6, whether or not that's 3 heroes coming to your lane, that's the strongest point of consideration that you should be having. So in my example, it's slightly different because I do have a a lead on the puck by 1 level, because I ended up killing him with my ultimate before he got level 6. But that does not change the dynamic of a lane like this. And what I mean by that is, once puck comes back, there's really no way I'm going to kill this guy. And he has a lot of ways of harassing me, and he is at the advantage at this stage in the lane, despite the fact that I am ahead of him in levels. So the situation we're talking about isn't necessarily related to if you are ahead or not. It's the combination of are you ahead or not, and also the dynamic of the matchup you're in. Do you threaten him? Does he threaten you? And if he gets a rotation with the puck, then I'm definitely under threat of dying, while I can't really do anything to him. I shouldn't have even been able to kill him the first time, but at the end of the day, I can't do anything to him as a jug. So in this case, I'm only going to return to the lane either to defend my tower or when I feel safe to push it. And since I don't really want to rotate either because I don't have my ultimate. So I don't want to leave my lane, and I don't want to occupy it against puck. So I kill as many creeps as I can before he gets back, and once he's back, I just go do efficient things for my hero. And that's flying myself this extra bit of regen so that I can spam spin for farm, using my shrine so that I can look to return to lane. But I am in no rush to return to this lane because I simply do not want to lane against the puck. But I am strong enough to spin down the wave if I so choose when I return to the lane. So even though I'm not shutting down the puck, that's the consideration I have. I don't want to be in lane because I'm not shutting down the puck. I'm going to do the most efficient thing that I possibly can do for my hero. So I'm just going to farm my way back to the lane. And then once we get back to the lane, I'm just going to spin it and leave. I have no desire to occupy this lane with the puck. I just push, or when I say spin it or leave, the idea is I'm pushing in the lane and leaving. Notice how much time I have spent near the puck ever since he has the advantage on me. And that's the key that we're trying to give here, is that you want to do the most efficient things for yourself with kiting the enemy offlaner as much as possible. And the only time you ever show up in lane with the offlaner there is to stop them from pushing your tower, or when you feel safe enough to quickly clear the enemy wave. So like this is another example of I'm just going to walk up to the puck, and then I'm going to spin, and then I'm going to leave again. And that's because my hero represents no kill threat on the puck. And that's something where if you get that habit down where all you're worrying about is defending your tower or pushing the lane when it's safe to push and then leaving again, and these are the games that you don't want to rotate, you fly yourself that extra bit of regen, you worry about jungling the camps efficiently, and you can get a lot more out of the lane and leave a lot sooner out of this lack of ideal lane. And this is something where because I get my earlier phase boots that I'm going to get, I end up getting a TP mid and turning a gank for 2 extra kills. And this is something where if you don't get these extra couple levels, all of your timings are really delayed, and it makes you have to stay in a lane that you don't want to be in even longer than you should have to. And these are the core concepts that we're talking about in this tips and tricks video. Hope you guys enjoyed this first video of the series, and we'll be doing more in the future.